there are places in Europe that seem suspended in time. Remote territories where isolation and nature are part of everyday life. Here, communities face enormous challenges, from land abandonment to the innovation needed to survive. Let's meet the voices that face these challenges and strive for a better future.
Ciao a tutti, sono Fabrizio Contini e prima di tutto sono un ragazzo di Stintino. Ho aperto questa nuova associazione, organizzazione Absentia Exploring the Absence.
In questo momento sono il portavoce del comune di Stintino.
Io mi chiamo Agostino Schiaffino, ho compiuto 60 anni 15 giorni fa. Sono uno stintinese di puro sangue, dal momento che tutti i miei bisnonni erano qua a Stintino al momento della fondazione del paese.
Fabrizio and Agostino are committed to revitalizing Stintino, focusing on creating opportunities and preserving the traditions that define their community.
I am Artnar Sigurðsson. I am the founder of East of Moon, a laboratory for community-centered innovation.
My name is Magdalena. I am from Poland and I'm 26.
Arna and Madalena bring us into the heart of the Westfjords, where they confront the struggles of isolation and the harshness of life in one of Iceland's most remote regions.
Hola, hello, my name is Beatrice Vanina. I'm the Managing Director of Consulta Europa Projects and Innovation. Consulta Europa is an SME, a small SME, based in Canary Islands.
Our finca is, we settled in a place that used to be 500 years ago. I'm talking about before the Spaniards arrived. It used to be covered by a huge forest full of endemic species, and we call that kind of forest Laurisilva.
Beatrice and Jaime represent two voices united in turning isolation into an opportunity. On the remote landscapes of Gran Canaria, they show us how sustainable agriculture has become a way forward, shaped by the island's rural character and unique ecosystem.
My name is Marcus. I am 40 years old. I was born in the very north of Italy, close to the Austrian and Swiss border, in a very beautiful place in a city called Merano.
Olá, sou Telmo Costa, dirijo a Associação Apoio Mar, uma organização não governamental para a cooperação nas áreas social e da sustentabilidade. Eu não sou nascido na Madeira, sou nascido no continente, mas vivo na Madeira há 22 anos, desde 2002.
So my name is Jay Mendes. I am from Portugal. I was a digital nomad for 10-12 years. I work with either sustainability or remote work, and I organize events for both.
Telmo and João see digital nomadism as both an opportunity and a challenge for Madeira, bridging its remote beauty to a global community while raising complex questions about integration and impact. These voices will guide us on a journey through some of the most remote places in Europe. Here, innovation and tradition intertwine to tackle the challenges of a constantly changing world. In Iceland, a land of vast wilderness and scattered settlements, the pull of urbanization has reshaped the nation's landscape.
I enjoy living in Reykjavik. Around 60% of all Icelanders live in Reykjavik or around it. So this is a recent trend. The city has grown a lot more than the countryside.
In the Westfjords of Iceland, the phenomenon of depopulation has emptied entire villages. the younger generations are leaving behind increasingly vulnerable communities.
The Westfjords used to be a very important part of Iceland. Big part of the population used to live there. So it was well connected, it had abundance of resources, mainly fish. Life was probably very hard as it is to some extent today.
Life in the Westfjords has always been challenging, shaped by isolation and the gradual loss of vital institutions.
One of the conditions of Þingeyri is that all of the institutions have left. So there is no mayor of Þingeyri, there is no cooperative anymore, there is no bank there. So there is no institutional people. So all the institutions that take care of the place, they're the people who administrate them are living maybe an hour away.
The absence of institutions forces the residents of Þingeyri to rely on each other for survival, fostering a sense of mutual dependence that defines their community.
It means that if you want to have something, you have to do it yourself. If your house gets on fire and you want somebody to put out the fire, you have to also be in the fire brigade. Nobody else is gonna do it if not you. This creates an interesting community where everybody matters.
In Iceland's Westfjords, transportation becomes an insurmountable challenge during the long winter months, contributing to the phenomenon of depopulation.
Þingeyri has a small grocery store where you can buy a hamburger or coffee or milk. It's 40-50 minutes away from Ísafjörður, which is a big town where you can go to the supermarket. It's quite remote and sometimes the weather doesn't permit you to leave.
Both the roads from Þingeyri may be closed on the winter time, so we can't go even shopping to Ísafjörður to buy like the basic things like bread, milk. Then you really feel like you are isolated from the rest of the world.
Bad weather creates invisible distances, isolating villages from essential resources.
But the problem is, if the road is closed, then the truck with the food can't come. So then we are left with the cans.
And you know how the roads are going like this and they have to go up and there are so many mountains, so it's very isolated. There's also the infrastructure with the transportation. You can fly there, but it's a 50% chance in the wintertime you can't come back. So that's not great for any tourist operator.
Winter is more than just a season. It is an invisible border that separates these communities from the rest of the world. Despite the distance and isolation, Magdalena went to Iceland searching for something beyond the familiar, a chance to reshape her life in a place of vast possibilities.
In Poland, there wasn't much to do for me because I also lived in like a not very big town. So I was looking for something better. Well, I came to Iceland as an au pair. First I went to Akureyri, which is like a quite big town for Iceland. And then after 1 month, I came here to work in the fish factory.
But for Magdalena, the choice to stay goes beyond work. It's about finding a place that feels like home.
I think my favorite thing about Þingeyri is the freedom and the fact that I can just leave my house, walk 2-3 minutes, and I'm totally alone. Like with the nature and yeah, a total peace. And
the peace, the sense of safety and the profound tranquility of Þingeyri were the reason Magdalena chose to build her life here. It's a place where solitude and connection coexist, offering a harmony few places can provide.
I have a family here. I have a husband and 2 kids. And also my mom is here and my sister. So they came after I settled in.
But Magdalena and her family are a special exception. Depopulation threatens the vitality of communities. In these places where job opportunities are scarce, empty houses multiply.
I think almost half of the houses here in Þingeyri, they are just empty. People don't live here, they only keep it as summer houses. And that's a huge problem for this community. Once we almost bought a house, but then someone was faster, and of course they bought it as a summer house, which stands now empty, used maybe 2 weeks a year, which is really sad because I know few people who would like to move here, but they just don't have a place to live.
Tourism has become an essential economic resource for the West Fjords, proving to be a lifeline during Iceland's financial crisis.
After the financial crash around 2008, tourism became a big sector in Iceland. It used to be that the most important export industry was fishing, or still is important.
For generations, this coast has depended on the sea. Today, fish farms have become the backbone of the local economy.
Yeah, here I think it's mostly the fishing, because it's the fish factory, it's the small fishing boats and just the private people who are fishing. And then it's a fish farm with the salmon. So yeah, that's probably the main economy here.
But in the last 10-15 years, it's been replaced by tourism.
Yet, as tourism expands, it risks losing its soul, alienating both travelers and locals by erasing the human stories that make every journey meaningful.
Tourism, is a wonderful thing, but with everything, there is a tendency in our economy, in capitalism, to take things to the extreme. It stops being an interaction between people that are meeting each other on equal terms, and it just becomes an industry. It definitely probably helped the economy in Iceland. The problem is not necessarily tourism, but how our economy deals with it.
Tourism offers a vital opportunity for remote communities to thrive. Yet its industrialization risks undermining these communities and the unique identities of their inhabitants. In places like the West Fjords, balancing economic benefits with the preservation of genuine human connection is both a challenge and a necessity. Stintino, a remote village in northern Sardinia, is one of those places fighting against isolation. The seasonal rhythm of tourism leaves a void, fueling depopulation as the community struggles to sustain itself beyond the summer months.
Perché il nostro territorio, oltre ad avere un mare spettacolare che chiaramente ci porta a essere considerati uno dei posti più belli del mondo dal punto di vista del mare, in particolare la nostra famosa spiaggia della Pelosa, ha delle caratteristiche peculiari, ovvero sia per 4 mesi all'anno questo paese vive come se fosse un posto di 80.000 persone e per la restante parte dell'anno entra in una sorta di letargo, per cui è come se fosse un organismo il cui cuore battesse in modo bradicardico, cioè da 400 battiti al minuto se fosse possibile a 40 battiti al minuto. Perché in realtà diventiamo da 1.600 abitanti, arriviamo a sfiorare gli 80.000. Quindi la situazione ovviamente è complessa, molto difficile da gestire. Le persone tendenzialmente si deprimono in una situazione del genere, entrano in una specie di iperattività in quella fase lì, ma poi cadono in una sorta di negazione della vita, no?
This dramatic rhythm of life deeply impacts the emotional and mental well-being of Stintino's residents. Over time, this phenomenon has become one of the driving forces behind the town's depopulation.
Stintino tecnicamente non è un paese dove si ha il problema dello spopolamento. In realtà lo è come? Perché stiamo osservando la diminuzione dei bambini. Quindi se i bambini non nascono e quindi non ci sono famiglie che hanno bambini, la scuola è destinata alla chiusura. Se la scuola chiude, il paese muore. Perché la problematica di questi luoghi è, lo sappiamo, la desertificazione antropica, cioè le persone vanno via perché siamo lontani dal primo centro abitato. Il primo centro abitato è Porto Torres ed è 30 km, mentre la città è a 50 km.
These conditions drive young people to leave the island, but experiences abroad are vital, especially for those living on an island. offering new perspectives and opportunities to shape their future.
I ragazzi devono andare e poi tornare. Andare perché devono crescere, perché devono imparare, perché devono diventare professionisti e poi tornare. Noi qualcuno ce l'abbiamo, no? Sappiamo, abbiamo Fabrizio e stiamo cercando di aggregare, no? E di trovare il modo per farlo. Ma nel frattempo i ragazzi devono andare per forza, devono crescere.
Fabrizio is one of those who left the island to explore the world, seeking experiences beyond its shores. And this journey brought him back, changing his perspective on Stintino.
La mia percezione su Stintino è cambiata negli anni. Io sono il classico ragazzo del muretto che si lamentava del fatto che a Stintino non ci fossero opportunità, non ci fosse niente da fare. Tutto questo silenzio, questo dolce far niente non mi piaceva molto, perché forse preferivo il divertimento, cioè la musica a volume alto. Arrivati ai 30 anni sono iniziato ad apprezzare il silenzio, la natura, il suono delle onde del mare.
Fabrizio's return was driven not just by his deep bond with his homeland, but by the insights shaped through his journey abroad, where encounters with different cultures redefined his perspective on his own home.
Ho fatto in passato un'esperienza di studio all'Università di Sassari in comunicazione, poi ho avuto l'occasione appunto di fare diverse esperienze all'estero grazie al programma Erasmus Plus con l'università, quindi di viaggiare, di mettermi in gioco. Mi ha fatto uscire da quella che è la mia comfort zone e quindi poi sono tornato a Stintino completamente cambiato, completamente anche stravolto, e tutto quello che ho imparato dalle mie esperienze all'estero ho cercato di portarle qui.
Social and economic innovation holds the key to overcoming the challenges faced by rural communities on remote islands. It is through creativity and self-reinvention that these places can secure a sustainable future.
Stessa cosa ha fatto Agostino Schiaffino, facendo una cosa molto semplice, ma sta creando proprio il turismo esperienziale che Stintino ha bisogno.
In Stintino, Agostino, a fisherman and entrepreneur, has transformed an ancient tradition into a sustainable experience, making fishing a means to preserve his town and its sea.
Il rapporto con questo mio paese è viscerale. Ho rinunciato anche alla possibilità di uscire da questo paese proprio perché lo amo e perché mi piacerebbe molto che questo paese avesse un futuro.
Agostino felt the need to reinvent himself and his craft. This led him to embrace a different daily approach to fishing, redefining his connection to the sea.
La mia giornata è semplice, mi alzo la mattina presto, con questa barca vado a raccogliere le reti, e con quello che tolgo dalle reti, poi la sera realizzo un menù per gli ospiti e questo fa in modo intanto che il pesce che io devo necessariamente portare via dal mare sia comunque di una quantità molto limitata rispetto a quello che dovrei pescare per poter fare il reddito direttamente dalla vendita.
Through Fish Home Restaurant, Agostino has reduced the need to catch large amounts of fish, focusing instead on the quality and experience offered to tourists, who experience the beauty of an ancient tradition firsthand.
Ed è un'esperienza molto positiva, intanto perché coinvolge anche la mia famiglia, mi dà la possibilità di lavorare a casa con mia moglie e con mie figlie che durante gli intervalli che hanno nelle loro fasi di studi mi aiutano in questa impresa.
Agostino hopes to preserve the tradition of fishing, involving his family and showing tourists the beauty of an ancient trade, a solution that aims to preserve the environment and create new opportunities for Stintino.
Io credo che sia molto importante, anzi io lo ritengo una cosa fondamentale, il fatto che l'uomo cerchi di vivere in un ambiente sempre più naturale. Ovviamente non sono così ipocrita da non pensare che anche io sfrutto la tecnologia. Insomma, questa barca ha un motore diesel, per cui introduce nell'aria delle particelle di inquinamento che poi sommate a tutte le altre fanno una somma di tanti motori. Però, ripeto, a qualcosa ci si può rinunciare, insomma, nel senso che magari anziché pescare per 10 ore come dovrei pescare se dovessi fare il reddito vendendo la pesca, riesco a lavorare 4 ore, quelle 6 ore che il mio motore non funziona sono 6 ore risparmiate anche all'ambiente che mi circonda.
The ecological transition in fishing is not just about using new technologies, but also about a change in thinking about the future. Less resource exploitation and more attention to the environment to ensure that traditions like his can continue to thrive.
La sfida più grande è cercare di cambiare la mentalità imprenditoriale della comunità, perché c'è sicuramente spazio per tutti.
The difficulties for those who remain are numerous, but Fabrizio and Agostino see local opportunities as a better future for the community, ensuring a future for new generations.
Stintino è ancora, penso, una terra fertile. Dobbiamo essere bravi e cercare di colmare con la creatività, con progetti, queste magari piccole assenze che notiamo ogni giorno.
Fabrizio works to turn problems into opportunities, seeking innovative solutions to combat depopulation and bring new life to Stintino through projects that involve the community and youth.
È un po' la mission che ha Ausentia, no? Quindi esplorare le assenze e cercare di colmarle, cercando di intercettare anche magari le opportunità che l'Unione Europea ci dà.
Despite the opportunities provided by Europe, remote communities across the continent face increasingly harsh conditions. The challenges of distance and the growing divide from major cities intensify year after year.
Abbiamo questo concetto sbagliato di provare ad assomigliarci sempre di più alle grandi città, quindi di portare quelli che sono i servizi, le attività, gli eventi che ci sono nelle grandi città in un paese piccolo.
Fabrizio's words echo a sentiment often emphasized by Arnar. Small, remote towns cannot be treated like big cities. To survive, they must be embraced for what they truly are.
I think that places and villages that have experienced depopulation, that have experienced decline, things are a little bit more difficult now than last year, and last year it was a bit more difficult than the year before and so forth. So for a long time you have experienced this, and you have generations that never saw things getting better. Like, you are not alone, it's not just you. I think this can just be a relief. It can help you develop a more positive self-image that it's not like, oh yeah, our place sucks. It's just that this is happening all over the world.
The key to surviving in the modern world lies in the ability to preserve what makes their culture unique, and in cultivating ties with other small communities in Europe.
e quindi anche grazie a questo progetto stiamo cercando di trasformare questo concetto, in quanto dobbiamo semplicemente comportarci come un paese piccolo, un paese remoto come Stintino, e cercare però di capire da altri paesi come per esempio la Stintino d'Islanda, cercare di capire come loro si stanno muovendo per quanto riguarda lo sviluppo del territorio.
That was one of the motivation behind this Project Europe, was to facilitate discussion and networking and familiarity between the small places in Europe. You know, we wonder if maybe there is something that a village like Thinkeri in the Westfields could learn from Stintino and vice versa.
Through the Europe project, they are creating a network of exchange and collaboration with other small realities across the continent, redefining their value and facing the challenges of our time together. While these challenges weigh heavily on many remote communities, elsewhere in Europe, the situation tells a slightly different story, with efforts to adapt and find new paths forward. Gran Canaria is an island of beauty and contrast. Its fertile land and strategic location have shaped its history, attracting both settlers and visitors throughout the centuries.
I'm not Spanish, but I'm Italian. However, I have been living in the Canary Islands, specifically in Gran Canaria, for over 8 years now. I came here through the Erasmus for young entrepreneurs. So I came here from Italy through the Chamber of Commerce of Torino. And I was hosted here by an experienced entrepreneur, Michel from Consulta Europa. So since then I have been working for Consulta Europa, and I have decided to live on this island. Canary Islands are defined as outermost regions, meaning that they are very far away, they are territory very far away from Europe mainland.
But its isolation from mainland Europe has also made it vulnerable to economic shifts, pushing Canary Islands to rely heavily on mass tourism as its main source of income.
In the past, Gran Canaria, especially the south of our island, as many other islands here in Canary Islands, have experienced a huge mass tourism effect, which of course provided economic welfare, but it also had negative consequences, especially on the landscape and on our cost. So, for instance, one of the opportunities that I can see for the future and even for the present, because it's something that is growing and developing, is to make this shift from mass tourism to a more ethical, let's say, tourism.
Over time, this dependence on tourism has marginalized other sectors, especially agriculture, which once thrived as the backbone of local communities.
In Gran Canaria, we have seen the difference that exists, of course, between the coastal part, where mass tourism, especially in the south, has been located for decades now, and the most rural and remote parts of for instance, of the center of the island.
In the more rural part of the island, sustainable agriculture projects are driving both social and economic innovation. This is crucial for Gran Canaria, which imports a significant portion of its food, making it dependent on external suppliers.
There is a movement to invest more finally on agriculture, because we lost many land and many practices. So this could be also another opportunity to be less dependent on imported products. One of the examples that I wanted to show project partners was the Ecofinca in Santa Maria de Guia, which is a very nice example from a youngster from Gran Canaria that lived outside in the United States many years, and then he wanted to come back to his place really to try new processes like the one from permaculture, along with educational and sensibilization activities, which is also something very important to local communities, but also to tourists that come and visit us.
The Ecofinca Selva do Ramas is not just a farm, but a place of learning and community. Through workshops and educational programs, it connects people to the land, demonstrating that sustainability is not only about preserving the environment, but also about empowering the local population. Through permaculture, Jaime reimagines farming as a collaboration with the land.
What's going to happen if you only have tomatoes? What can happen? Is it going to be very productive, or is it going to be hard to manage? Is it going to bring more insects, or what do you guys think? Some plants, if they are planted together, they grow faster and they grow more. And that's part of our philosophy, which is permaculture. So permaculture is focused on designing and managing agro-ecosystems that are productive, right? To do that, you need to increase the amount of biodiversity. In order to achieve that goal, we needed to introduce a lot of endemic species.
Selva Doramas was born out of a desire to bring new life to Gran Canaria's agricultural landscape. But transforming this vision into reality has been anything but straightforward.
A challenge was that we didn't have all the knowledge, so we started planting here, and we didn't have rain that year, so we lost all the trees. The first year we didn't have enough water, so we were buying from the Mareta. But it wasn't enough, so they cut the water, and our avocado trees were suffering.
The lack of water wasn't the only obstacle. As newcomers in a community that had long struggled with the abandonment of its rural areas, Jaime faced skepticism and uncertainty.
So we were foreigners here.
Yes.
We arrived here and we noticed that people were looking at us like, who are these people? And they are worried about you because they want this to keep developing, because they've been stuck in time for a long time. Most of the people have been abandoning their villages.
But Jaime and his team were determined to show that their approach was different. Instead of giving up, they focused on building trust and proving that a sustainable local farm could thrive.
We have to compete with other products that are being imported from the mainland, and they have lower prices. And we are local agriculturists, right? So it is super hard to convince people from the island to buy our products. People usually look for the cheapest price.
Their journey was not just about producing food, but about creating connections with the people around them. Bit by bit, they found ways to bridge the gap between local produce and community support.
Working at the market has helped us a lot because you get to meet the people. So when we bring the products, we talk to people there and we tell them about our finca. We invite them to come here, and that actually works. So it's all about trust. You need to show people respect.
Slowly, families from nearby villages began visiting, curious to see what these newcomers were building. What started as a solitary effort gradually turned into a place where people felt welcome.
I was very surprised that people actually started coming here and they keep buying our products, and they say like, hey, I know it's a little bit more expensive, a little bit, but this is like, it was produced here, and it's also more sustainable.
Jaime's decision to move against the tide from the city to the countryside is part of a broader movement across isolated regions. places like Madeira, similar stories are unfolding. Stories of people returning to the land, embracing sustainable farming, and striving for self-sufficiency.
I moved to Madeira 7 years ago with the intention to start a farm, to start an agriculture exploration. The objective is to have a big amount of different fresh foods all grown here on the land. I choose this island because 7 years ago the prices were still really accessible to buy agriculture land, and it has a very interesting climate where you actually can grow almost everything.
Like Jaime, Marcus has chosen to rebuild from the ground up, turning challenges into opportunities and creating a space where nature and community can thrive together.
We welcome people from all over the world that are motivated and that bring in some skills. And we living here as a community. We cook together. We share sometimes in our free time as well. And what we all love is nature, to be close to the animals and to live in a healthy environment.
The balance between man and nature is at the heart of his project. Respect for the environment is reflected in every choice, from the way he feeds the animals to the philosophy he embraces for the nutrition of the inhabitants of his eco-village.
I studied holistic nutrition, and I'm not a big fan of dogmas, so I don't want to introduce any belief systems about nutrition or food to the people that arrive here. They are free to eat whatever they think is healthy for them.
Food choices in the village go beyond simple nutrition. They reflect a deep respect for the animals, which are not seen merely as resources, but as a fundamental part of everyday life.
We have the animals as our friends. They provide us with not only with good food in terms of eggs, but also they are very funny, and they also have like a therapeutical properties. So they create a healthy environment for all of us.
Self-sufficiency is not just a necessity, but an ambitious goal that requires dedication and perseverance. For Jaime, it means revitalizing local agriculture and reconnecting Gran Canaria's communities to the land. For Marcus, it's about creating a model of sustainable living in Madeira, where each resource is carefully nurtured and every step is a move towards resilience. In Madeira, Marcus' vision for sustainable living finds echoes in Domingos, who embraces the island's traditions to cultivate the land. His work stands as another powerful example of how heritage and sustainability can grow hand in hand.
Tivemos no programa a oportunidade de visitar o terreno do Domingos Vieira. E o Domingos tem desenvolvido um trabalho muito interessante neste terreno, que serve não só para proteger e enriquecer o seu terreno, mas tem dado um contributo forte para a proteção dos terrenos contíguos ao próprio terreno.
Beyond being a farmer, Domingos is a founding member of Poiomar and works as a tourism technician, focusing primarily on this sector. Madeira's tourism is evolving rapidly in the post-pandemic world, bringing both opportunities and challenges to the island and its people.
Anteriormente, antes do Covid, o turismo da Madeira era o turismo que queria vir à Madeira, que procurava na Madeira as suas características próprias, nomeadamente atividades de exploração da natureza, a beleza da ilha. No pós-Covid, temos a Madeira como destino turístico disseminado a nível global.
This growth has come with a cost: crowded attractions, environmental strain, and a growing need to balance development with preservation.
Mas é que, aqui e ali talvez menos descuidado e naturalmente à procura de hotspots turísticos que de antes eram hotspots mais leves em termos de procura e que hoje em dia têm uma procura elevadíssima e uma ocupação elevadíssima, resultando em constrangimentos ao nível do trânsito, mas também ao nível da poluição, do lixo, do desgaste do terreno.
With its international reputation rising, Madeira faces the task of adapting its tourism industry to sustain both its economy and its natural heritage. This transformation leaves some residents questioning the cost of its newfound acclaim.
Pois para mim, que não sou operador turístico, o turismo podia ser muito diferente, podia ser muito menor e podíamos ter mais ilha para nós e menos transformação, menos desenvolvimento, mas não me cabe só a mim decidir e há uma faixa muito significativa da população que tem beneficiado muito com o turismo e temos, sem dúvida nenhuma, a capacidade de abraçar estes desafios.
Madeira's resilience lies in embracing change, pursuing a future where tourism enriches rather than overwhelms. Among its diverse forms of tourism is digital nomadism, a growing trend João has embraced for over a decade, showcasing its unique lifestyle and opportunities.
Digital nomadism exists already since the 60s, 70s. IBM had apparently historically the first group of remote workers that were able to work remotely, and those are the digital nomads. People that during some time of their lives they are moving around. Technically they stay less than 6 months in each place, but again there's no rule for this, and they work remotely most of their time.
In Madeira, digital nomadism has filled a gap left by the pandemic, bringing life to homes and spaces that once stood empty during the tourist decline.
De maneira que o projeto do nomadismo digital permitiu trazer alguma dinâmica à época. Unidades de alojamento local que estavam vazias e permitiu simultaneamente também divulgar um pouco a Madeira nos 4 cantos do mundo.
Digital nomads differ from short-term tourists, bringing unprecedented challenges to the communities that host them. The key lies in embracing these challenges, learning to navigate them and maximizing the benefits they bring.
Grande benefício do nomadismo digital e que percebemos agora, passado algum tempo, é a flexibilidade. Ora bem, esta flexibilidade é que o nómada digital gosta do destino, vem, passa algum tempo, se gosta pode ficar mais algum tempo, pode ir e voltar, mas não é um residente fixo. A meu ver, redobra o interesse deste conceito, porque o nomadismo digital possa ser uma solução para épocas baixas. Portanto, isto aplica-se a qualquer parte do mundo.
Digital nomads offer an interesting solution to one of the main problems of mass tourism, seasonality. While traditional tourists visit the island mostly in the summer months, digital nomads prefer the low season, contributing to a steady economic flow. But their presence brings with it challenges that cannot be ignored. These are the unseen barriers that must be overcome for true integration.
Every time you have a big mass move of people, you have consequences, of course. So if you have a smaller town and and all of a sudden you attract a lot of remote workers, there's going to be a big problem. If you have a medium town, the same. If you attract a lot, so everything has to do with numbers. Because if you attract a lot of them, of course, then you're going to have issues with the local population, with the health structure. Because remember, nomads stay longer. They might use the health system more than if you're just a short-term tourist.
If well integrated, digital nomadism can be a valuable asset for the island's economy, turning seasonal tourism into a driver of sustainable growth and fostering the development of local communities.
O digital nomadismo está a funcionar estes dias, surge como uma solução fantástica. Portanto, é sem dúvida uma oportunidade, uma das soluções para combater a sazonalidade e é um passo novo e outros passos virão a seguir, porque haverá outras oportunidades que vão ser descobertas e que vão ser descobertas justamente por aquilo que estamos a fazer, porque estamos a partilhar experiências de zonas diferentes da Europa e estamos, ao partilhar experiência, estamos a transferi-las.
Madeira's story and the resilience of its people stands as an inspiring example, a beacon for other rural communities across Europe's most remote corners, showing what can be achieved through shared experiences and innovation. In the heart of Europe's most remote and rural areas, the challenges of isolation meet the value of identity. To be born and raised on an island is to grow within the rhythm of the sea, where every wave, every breeze, every sunrise shapes a unique sense of belonging. It is a bond not only to the land, but to the culture, traditions and values that endure despite the distance from the mainland. To live remotely is to embrace a life that teaches you the value of community, of being part of something larger than yourself. In places like Thingeri, isolation becomes a path to deeper understanding, a way to connect with others and ultimately with yourself.
I would say, personally, I have lived all around the world, and I think that moving to Thingeri for 3 years, I probably learned more than if I had moved to a foreign country. Because it just really changed my way of thinking. It changed my way of thinking about how you deal with your community, your neighbors. You never understand something until you lived it yourself. As humans, it's just like this. And if you only live in a big city, you never quite will understand this. And of course, the other way around. If you only lived in a small town, there are some things you might not understand. But I think we should be conscious of this, and I think it's very healthy for us to try different things.
Urban life is not the default for progress. A balanced, dynamic life can flourish beyond the urban sprawl.
Mi piacciono le sfide e ho deciso di rimanere qua in Sardegna per provare a, non dico a cambiare le cose, ma a migliorarle, dai. E quella di Stintino oggi è una grande sfida, quella di cercare di vivere a Stintino, comunque di vivere in Sardegna, è assolutamente una sfida, che però è super appagante, perché alcuni progetti che sto portando avanti, anche questi progetti europei, sono molto più difficili da sviluppare, però vedi realmente l'impatto che hanno sulla comunità, l'impatto sociale, l'impatto economico.
From the rugged shores of Sardinia to the vibrant landscapes of Madeira, the stories of those who remain are bound by a shared determination to embrace the challenges of insularity and transform them into a deeper connection to their land.
Passado 4 anos de ter vindo, portanto em 2006, senti a necessidade de sair da ilha e de voltar àquilo que eu chamo o mundo real. Porque a Madeira não é um mundo real, é um mundo à parte. E então, quando voltei a ter esta experiência de vida no mundo real, valorizei de uma forma que não o tinha feito até aí a Madeira. Portanto, voltei com grande intensidade na vontade de regressar, pelo que eu digo que é necessário aprender a viver numa ilha. Eu tive que sair para sentir o verdadeiro valor da ilha.
Life on an island teaches you to embrace its duality, the limit of geography and the boundless richness of identity. To live is to understand its value, To return is to rediscover the profound connection that only an island can offer.
Beh, quando ero bambina vivevo su un'isola minore, l'Asinara, io ero la bambina più felice del mondo, perché intanto credevo che il mondo fosse così. Quando ho raggiunto la terraferma, che terraferma non è perché è l'isola maggiore, ovviamente la vita è cambiata radicalmente, tanto sono diventata grande, quindi era tutto un altro mondo. Però ho capito che l'insularità e l'isolamento è un grande valore, è un qualcosa che ti... Nella mia esperienza, per cui sono condizionata, ne sono felice di essere stata un'isolana e di vivere in un'isola, nonostante tutto, perché anche la forte identità che si crea, l'identità delle comunità, no? È molto forte e questo è un valore, non è un disvalore. Nel tuo mondo c'è questa ricchezza incredibile che l'isola ti dà. Quindi ci sono degli svantaggi, ma secondo me sono maggiori i vantaggi.
Isolation shapes us not as a barrier, but as a cradle for identity, culture and belonging. In these remote places we find not just beauty, but the essence of what it means to truly live, rooted in connection, enriched by simplicity and driven by hope for the future. We have traveled through 4 remote places separated by sea and land. In these distant corners, isolation is a challenge met with resilience and creativity. Here, the future is built with respect for the land and the will to turn difficulties into opportunities. In Iceland, where climate and isolation shape daily life, Arnar and his organization East of Moon embody a mission of rural and remote innovation. Through his work, he bridges tradition and modernity, inspiring communities to adapt and prosper in even the most remote corners of the country, like the Westfjords. In Sardinia, Fabrizio embodies the spirit of resilience, transforming challenges into opportunities. His return to Stintino to found Absentia reflects a commitment to social innovation, community management, and the pursuit of a future where isolation becomes a strength rather than a limitation. In Gran Canaria, Beatrice and Consulta Europa helped us explore sustainable agriculture, showing how projects like Ecofinca Selvadorama are trying to bring new life to farming and revive local tradition with permaculture. In Madeira, Telmo's association Poiomar showed us the impact of tourism, where digital nomadism is more than a trend, it's a force of transformation. As a pioneer of this new economy, the island serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale, offering lessons in connection with the land, a point of view on sustainable growth, and the challenges of managing change. These distant lands showed us that change can come from those who are willing to imagine a different future. A future where being part of a rural community on a remote island of Europe is no longer a barrier, but a resource from which to draw strength and inspiration together.